All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to talk about the Browns, some comments made by Browns general manager Andrew Berry on Deshaun Watson and his recovery from last year's injury. So we'll get into that. And I know, like I said, there were some comments in the chat, and I guess the individual was a little confused on the show. I guess they thought it was a game show. Uh, so yeah, and then I guess they left now. So yeah, I apologize. This isn't a game show. This is a podcast, football podcast. But make sure to check out all the other shows. Like I'll say at the end of the show today. Um, Make sure to check out all of the other shows on the network to get more sports information. We got a ton of podcasts on the sports network. We've been doing this since September. Well, at least I've been hosting shows since September. Um, but yeah, since then, the network has really grown. We have a lot of shows, a lot of variety. So make sure to check out all the other shows. And I will remind you guys at the end of my show here. So I wanted to get into what Andrew Berry had to say, just some things on Deshaun Watson and his recovery. And I know I've talked about the Browns before and given you updates on Deshaun Watson, but we're going to give you some more. So this is what Andrew Berry had to say regarding Deshaun Watson. So he said, first and foremost, Deshaun has really worked his tail off during the rehabilitation process over the last several months. And he said this during an appearance on the Insiders on Monday. He's really actually ahead of schedule. He's really chomping at the bit to take the governor off, so to speak. But really, he's had a really nice spring. He's thrown the ball well, did a really nice job during our 7-on-7 and team periods during this veteran minicamp. So we're excited as he gets into training camp and gets the pads on. He's making excellent progress. Honestly, if you didn't know he got hurt last year, you really wouldn't be able to tell the difference. We're very excited once camp starts. And then he also had some things to say about Nick Chubb as well, because Nick Chubb is, of course, working his way back from an injury. And he said, when we look at any member of our organization, it's important for us not to lose sight on the fact that we're dealing with people. What happened to Nick last year was very unfortunate. He had no desire to be anywhere besides Cleveland. We had no desire for that to be his last snap, or the last snap he would take in a Cleveland Browns jersey. Quite honestly, he's the heartbeat and pulse of our team, which to be honest, I kind of agree with that. He is a selfless individual. He works hard. He's an outstanding ball carrier and outstanding running back. I said this at my end of the season press conference coming into the year. I had a respect level for Nick Chubb. It was 10 out of 10. Exiting the season, it was probably a 20 out of 10 because this was a person who came in every day, 5:30, doing his rehab, working as if he was preparing for Sunday. I think that says something about him individually and as a professional. One of the moments that we're most looking forward to is the first time he runs out of that home tunnel for his debut of the 2024 season. So we're really excited to have him back and can't wait to get going with him. And then he also talked about Amari Cooper as well, which I'll get into in a little bit. But yeah, I had a lot to say about those two guys. I mean, the Browns, give them a lot of credit for what they were able to accomplish last year. I mean, 5 starting quarterbacks. I mean, really it was 4. They brought in Jeff Driscoll just to start the last game of the regular season, but still, 5 starting quarterbacks last year. You had injuries on the offensive line, in the backfield with Nick Chubb, of course. So, and they were able to make the playoffs. So you got to give credit to them that they were able to do that. And I think this is a big year for Deshaun Watson because the Browns have invested a lot in him, and he really hasn't delivered. He comes in, didn't really play that much in 2022. He really wasn't that good when he did play. And last year was kind of the same thing. And he ends up getting hurt. And, The Browns had to start P.J. Walker and DTR, and then eventually you get Joe Flacco, and you ride that to the playoffs. And they were one and done. But they want to see Deshaun Watson come out and have a Deshaun Watson type year. How he was with the Texans. With the Browns, I mean, he's got, over 2,200 yards. This is in total of the 2 years that he's been with the Browns. He's got over 2,200 yards, 14 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. We want to see better numbers out of him. And I don't know if we're going to get that, because it has been a long time since we've seen Deshaun Watson play really good football, because he missed the entire 2021 season. Now, the last full season that he did play, he passed for nearly 5,000 yards. He had 4,823 yards passing, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. And the Texans were horrible his final season. He was solid. The Texans just were not good. Then you had, the off-the-field stuff happen. He missed the entire season. And he gets traded to Cleveland, played towards the end of the year. But, yeah, it wasn't great. And then really wasn't that good last year either. But who knows? Maybe he turns it around and we see the Deshaun Watson that we saw when he was with the Texans. But I'm not too sure of that. I don't really think we're going to see. I think we're going to see something in the middle. I don't think he's going to be awful, but I don't think that we're going to see the Deshaun Watson from Houston. I think he's still going to turn the ball over. He's going to be inaccurate. But having said that, that doesn't mean that I don't think that, he's going to be part of games that the Browns are going to win. I think he's going to have some good games here or there. But I think really what I'm trying to say is there's going to be a lack of consistency. That's really how I feel when it comes to Deshaun Watson. And there are many people that say they should have kept Baker Mayfield. But the Browns really thought by giving up draft capital that they gave up to get Deshaun Watson, they really, and signing him to that mega contract, they thought that they were getting someone that was going to take them to new heights. And it really just has not panned out that way. And they better hope that it pans out, because Andrew Berry, he could end up losing his job. Now, I don't think that's gonna. I don't think he's on the hot seat, but I think if we continue with Deshaun Watson as the starting quarterback of the Browns, and he's not living up to the contract, you're probably going to see some changes at the top of the organization. You might see Kevin Stefanski lose his job. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen this year, because the Browns would have to really have an awful season. Deshaun Watson would have to have a really bad season for them to really say, you know what, this is not working. And I think the Browns are going to be good, but I think also they're going to have to live with Deshaun Watson not playing well at times. And they play in a tough division, which is a division that we will talk about in a couple of segments here. Right now, I look at the Browns as either the third or fourth best team in the division. It's between them and the Steelers. Now, usually when you say a team is a third or fourth place team in a division, they're not very good. But that's not the case with the AFC North. The AFC North is, in my opinion, the best division in football. And it's going to continue to be that way next season. And listen, I said the Browns are the third best team, but the last game that Deshaun Watson played was against the Ravens. They had that comeback win against the Ravens, and he was a part of that. And they beat up on Joe Burrow and the Bengals in Week 1 in Cleveland. I think they shut out the Bengals in Week 1, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not like, and they also split with the Steelers. It's not like the Browns are not going to be able to hang with the top 2 teams. They definitely can. They've shown that. But I don't know. I think with the healthy Joe Burrow and of course, with the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, the defense, Derrick Henry now in the fold, yeah, I think those teams are better. I would take those teams over the Browns. But let's not pretend that, the Bengals might have a question mark at quarterback when it comes to Joe Burrow's health. I feel like when it comes to Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow, the question marks that I may have, it's more towards their health. Now, Lamar Jackson, he was able to stay healthy last year. But before that, the previous 2 seasons, yeah, he was hurt. The Ravens seasons kind of ended the same way. It was Lamar Jackson was playing well, and then he ended up getting hurt, and the Ravens ended up not really doing anything with those seasons. Bengals, they were the hottest team in the NFL at one point, or one of the hottest teams in the NFL. He gets hurt. That derails the Bengals season. You look at the Steelers, yeah, they got not really injuries, but they got a completely different quarterback room. So you could look at each quarterback situation within the division and say, there's some concerns here, there's some concerns here, there's some concerns here. But again, still, best division in football. And if Deshaun Watson can return to that elite level, like when he was with the Texans, that is going to be a huge boost for this team. It really is. And if you can get Nick Chubb back and kind of they're going to ease him back into it. I mean, he's not going to get a heavy workload to start the season. I mean, he shouldn't. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer, but yeah, they're going to ease him back into it. And Jerome Ford, he did a nice job filling in last year. Kareem Hunt as well, but I don't think Kareem Hunt's a free agent. But yeah, it's going to be Jerome Ford. He's going to get the workload to start the year, and then I guess Chubb will gradually cut into his workload as we go through the season. Well, we got to see if Nick Chubb plays Week 1. We got a long way to go, but yeah, I mean, to get those 2 back, even if Deshaun Watson is lacking when it comes to consistency, just having him back and Nick Chubb back, I think that's huge for this team. That's a huge boost for them, as my dog is now laying right outside my door. If you heard that thud, that's her plopping herself right by my bedroom door. So I did want to get into what he had to say about Amari Cooper as well, because I think the Browns have do I think they have one of the best receiving corps in the NFL? I mean, I wouldn't say maybe it's like outside. Like if you were ranking them, I'd probably put them like maybe slightly outside the top 10. Well, then again, I have to do a rankings list. I don't like doing rankings lists because it's very hard to rank anything, honestly. Well, it depends on what it is. If it's top 10, top 15, top 20. If you're doing top 5, I guess. But yeah, the Browns receiving core I think is decent, and of course David Njoku, the tight end, coming off of his best season. The Browns got playmakers, so I'm curious to see how it is now. They brought in Jerry Jeudy, so we'll see how it goes. But I did want to bring up what Andrew Berry had to say about Amari Cooper. He said, "What I will say about Amari is since he's been a member of the Cleveland Browns, he's obviously been a high-level Pro Bowl caliber receiver, but he's also a great teammate and he's a great professional. We're happy to have him as a member of the organization. Sometimes all teams will have periods where they go through this type of situation, but it does not change when it comes to Amari. We'll navigate the business considerations, the business aspects as it goes, but he's a big part of our team, and just as important, he's a big part of our culture." So Yeah, I guess they're talking about because he's, because he's in the final year of his 5-year contract that he signed back with the Cowboys because he did get traded. So it's just talking about his contract situation. But he is getting older. I think he is 30 now. He's 29, 30 years old. But yeah, no, he's been good for the Browns. Um, despite the QB carousel, he's done well with the Browns. Um, but yeah, you got him. You got Judy, Njoku. Elijah Moore is also there as well. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, that's pretty much it. When talking about the Browns, Andrew Berry, at least from his perspective, he's encouraged on where things are at with this team, with the quarterback, with the running back. So, we'll see how it goes for the Browns, and we'll talk about them in the final segment. But we are going to take our next break now. When we come back, we'll talk about Sean McVay, him kind of feeling rejuvenated with some of the changes that the Rams have gone through, and I'll get into that when we come back from our next break. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.